Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back as we will go forward with a reparenting course. And I am making this section open as well for you to learn more about legitimizing emotions, for you to become aware of many aspects within what happens within emotions, with the way we form emotions, with the way we store emotions, and of course, the most importantly, the way we express or don't express emotions. Let's start discussing our interest about learning emotions. Why are we learning about emotions? I specifically called this section Legitimizing Emotions. It's a very interesting term. Let's discuss what it's about, okay? You can ask and say, what's wrong with my emotions? I do legitimize, I do talk about them, I do express. Some of you are very emotional, some of us are able to express emotions. Let's figure out what is it in here that I'm discussing, okay? Let me share my presentation today. We're not going to have so much to presentation, more I'm going to talk to and discuss things. So legitimizing emotions is what we're going to focus in this section. It's specifically, we're going to discuss, of course, we're going to discuss the difference between emotions and feelings. And we are going to discuss what is involved, what are emotions, what they consist of. We're going to talk about the science behind it, the psychology behind it, everything and anything, okay? Let's start discussing what is the role of emotions and feelings in the practice, okay? Very often, I meet up clients that have difficulty processing or even understanding or identifying their own emotions and feelings. And often when I ask them, what is it that you feel? They often say, I don't feel anything. Or they say, I don't know. I'm not sure. A lot of times, the therapist, the coach, would label this kind of clients as frozen. They would call them unemotional. Those of you who worked with me before, those of you who took any sessions with me, you know I'm very big on the wheel of emotion. This is the reason why we use the wheel of emotion, to start identifying, to start getting in touch, understanding, getting in touch with various feelings that we have. So it's very interesting to know that when a client has an incident in the past where he or she cannot process or fully live through the emotion of the moment. For example, let's take an example. There was an embarrassing social situation, and the person could not openly cry at the moment due to the embarrassment, let's say social embarrassment. It can even go further and bring like shameful feelings. If it's worsened, if there's a significant other present or anybody else, if there are other significant people present in a social situation, which will also bring embarrassment. So the emotion due to traumatization may encapsulate within the body. Okay, we talked about in the body dynamics video where I talked about the emotions being encapsulated within the muscle. And then the way the body encapsulated through the traumatization of the body. So the basic understanding is that the body starts dissociating itself from the pain of the hurt feeling or the hurt emotion. Okay, and of course, it's interesting to start noting that we have a famous trauma reaction, fight or flight, okay? And then there is another one that's more prevalent by the actual animals, okay? There's the third one, okay? We all heard about fight or flight, and then there is also F is for freeze, or by the animals, it goes pretend to be dead. The body, for the animals, it actually goes as far as the body actually stops breathing. The body is alive, but it stops breathing on a visible notion, okay? So if the lion, for example, wants to attack a gazelle, the gazelle notices, is there enough space for me to flight? Is there enough, can I fight? You cannot fight. Can I flight? If there is enough time, if the line is far enough, I can fly. But if the line is very near, then there is a freeze situation occurs, and the gazelle will pretend to fall dead so much that the body does not even show the breathing. Okay, the body doesn't move enough to kind of express breathing. And this is an interesting part, that humans have the same thing. With us, it's not pretending to be dead. With us, it's called freezing. And this is the way to ensure that the human, through the body and the localized sensation within the body, does not experience the pain of the trauma. That pain is so overwhelming that the person feel like they can, God forbid, people can have heart attacks or psyche cannot take it, right? Go crazy. So as a result, the body does what it can to protect the human from the deathful situation. So what the body does is kind of freezes the sensation within, hence, and if it occurs, by the way, a number of times, the sensation, the client will actually say, I don't feel anything. I don't know what I feel. I don't have any emotions. I don't have any feelings, right? When they say, I don't know, the mind tends to forget, to erase the hurtful experience from the memory. So again, to avoid the pain of memory. Hence, the identification of the memory as localized by the body sensation is also frozen. Okay, so body, the mind, emotion, body partnership works on all levels, right? The body will kind of freeze to forget the pain that was encapsulating. The mind will kind of erase the memory or hide it very, very, very deep in subconscious. And then there is an emotion, a joint effort to ensure the survival of the human psyche from the hurtful memory and experience. The base of understanding and identifying emotions is done by the guidance of the mother. This is what we're going to discuss actually further on, as we're going to talk about the containment theory, okay? After we talk about emotions, I want to talk more about emotions, okay? There are different theories about the way emotions come, the way emotions are identified, the way emotions are brought forth within the human. Again, the mind, the body, everything, how it kind of localizes and personifies itself within our identity. Two of the major theories are Carol Izard theory. Carol Izard, we're going to talk about Carol. Let me first mention Plutchik's theory. Robert Plutchik argued that, give me a second, I figured, let me stop the sharing so you can actually see me. Robert Plutchik actually talked about 8 primary emotions, and he said that each one is directly related to the adaptive pattern of behavior necessary for survival. Here's what I'm going to show you, the Plutchik's wheel of emotions, right? Plutchik actually went as far, so the primary emotion he defined were here. He talked about joy and sadness, trust and disgust, fear and anger, surprise and anticipation, okay? It's interesting to note, okay, that he created the wheel of emotions, the original wheel of emotions, what actually created by Robert Plutchik. Okay, he talked about, interesting to note, right? So there are primary emotions. This is how you can read the wheel, okay? Then there are opposite emotions, right? Let's say over here, this petal and this petal. I like to call it actually the flower of emotions, right? Because it looks like a flower with petals. And the compound emotion, the background emotion that would contribute or add or work with each of the emotions, each of the petals, okay? And also there is a circuit 3-dimensional, so complex models. If you search this on Google, you can find there are even have interactive website that will let you click on the emotion and will give you more explanation. But notice the color shows also the intensity of the emotion, okay? That's interesting. Closer to the center, darker is more emotional, more intensity, and of course, going further away is less intensity. And it's interesting that Plutchik suggested that other emotions are variations of this 8, okay? So his view, there are primary 8 emotions. And he talked about that the way the other emotions come forth is by combining those 8 emotions, okay? So he also discussed the fact that one of the best way to get clients to get to their emotion, the feeling, is by sensations. And those, of course, are based upon the 5 senses, the tactile, the visual, hearing, tasting, and smelling. So sensations are interesting to know. The way sensations come about are based upon triggers. Whichever triggers a person to feel in their body, they're easier accessible. So it's important to understand that those like in bodily sensation will have a hard time accessing. So people who are very much in touch with their body will kind of, when you often ask them for emotion, they will connect it to body sensation. And also those of us who are more into the mind, right? When you ask them for emotion, they will tell you a thought. So it's important to start understanding emotions as emotions, okay? The word emotion comes from the Latin word emovio, which means to bother, to move, to shake. Okay, when something bothers you, you get emotional. It triggers an emotion within you. All human emotions can be differentiated by the quality of experience. Now we're going back to Carol Izard. Actually, even before we go to Carol Izard, Plutchik's Wheel of Emotion, there you go. The way we can identify various 8 emotions that Plutchik identifies as major emotions by the expressions of the infants. Okay, that's interesting, right? Another psychologist came forward. His name is Carol Izard. He identified 10 primary emotions. Okay, his primary emotions are joy. Let's see if you can identify the emojis. Joy, interest or excitement. Right? I found this on the net. I was wondering. So this would be joy, I would assume. I wonder which one would be interest and excitement. Okay, surprise, right? Sadness. This would be maybe interest. This would be sad. Excuse me. Anger, right? This could also be sadness. This is anger. Disgust, right? Disgust. This could also be anger, right? This could be, we also have contempt. Okay, this could be contempt. This could be anger. Disgust, right? This could be disgust, right? Fear, shame, and guilt. Okay, we have fear, shame, right? Guilt might be this might be. Anyway, I think each one of us will identify our own, right? But yeah, let's talk more about it, right? So 10 basic human emotions that are present from infancy, according to Carol Izard, right? Joy, interest, excitement, surprise, sadness, anger, disgust, contempt, fear, shame, and guilt. Okay, we're going to talk about 3 of these major ones later on. It's interesting to start noting that what Izard did, he actually said this were the 10 major ones. All the other emotions are a combination of these 2. He also talked about the 2 dimensions of emotions, let's say positive versus negative balance, and also the low versus the high arousal, okay? So to identify the emotions that are generally present in infants, Carol Izard analyzed the facial expressions of infants, okay? So he said, yeah, let me see. Right? This is what he said. He isolated 10 emotions. Most of them are present in infancy, except for contempt, shame, and guilt. Okay, so he talked about the mouse. The joy is mouse forming smile. Here, over here, we can see it better. So there were 10 emotions, but 7 of them are more present in infancy, 3 of them, they're more identifiable later. So it's interesting how Carol Izard have described it, right? So joy, he described as mouth forming smile, cheeks feel lifted, twinkle in the eye. Anger, he described as brows drawn together and downwards, eyes fixed, mouth squashing, right? Interest, he described as brows raised or knitted, mouth softly rounded, lips maybe pursed. Disgust, he describes as nose wrinkled, right? Look at this disgust, right? Upper lip raised, tongue pushed outward. Surprise, he described as brows raised, eyes widened, mouth rounded in oval shape. And sadness, he described as brows inner corner raised, mouth corner drawn down. And fear, he described as brows level, drawn in and up, eyelids lifted, mouth corners retracted. Interesting, right? So he also talked about various emotions kind of connecting to each other. He talked about joy, distress connecting to suffering, more like emotion leading to a certain feeling, distress leading to suffering, anger leading to rage, disgust leading to loathing, contempt leading to disregard, fear leading to horror, shame leading to shyness, guilt leading to repentance, okay? Interesting to start noticing about emotions, right? This is more Alexander Lowen. We're going to talk a bit later. Emotions, it's interesting to know the difference between emotions and feelings, okay? So let's start identifying and rather saying, or rather saying, differentiating between emotions and feelings, because a lot of time people are using them interchangeably, but it's really, they're really two different things, okay? So emotions are rooted in the body. Feelings are based upon the mind, the perception of what those emotions might represent at this specific moment to the person, okay? Again, feelings would constitute emotions plus a certain thought, and that would be feelings. Oh, 1 second, please. I'm trying to find out. So emotions are more based upon the sensations. They start as sensations in the body. Feelings generally generate from the thoughts about what those emotions may represent to us, our perception of what that emotion means to me at this specific moment. In other words, feelings are how we interpret emotions and how we let them sink in, how we let them affect us. We use the word feel for both physical and emotional states, but really emotions come first and then feelings come after as the emotional chemicals go to work in our bodies. And that's how mood develops from the combinations of feelings. Emotions are chemicals released in response to our interpretation of a specific trigger. Emotions are real-time data sparked by sensation in the body. Feelings can be a bit more biased. They can be altered by mental misconception, again, something we call perception. Developing emotional awareness can help prevent reactivity and false belief. Despite the words being used interchangeably, emotions and feelings are actually two different but quite connected phenomena. Emotions originate as sensations in the body. Feelings are influenced by our emotions, but are generated from our mental thoughts. Okay. The next one I have for you are emotions corresponding with sensations in the body by Alexander Lowen. It's interesting to note that all feelings are perceptions by the mind of a change in the body. A change in the body may be a response to what is happening outside of the body with or without physical contact. It could also be the reflection of motility and internal functioning of the body. The environment is only known by its effects on the body. Increasingly in our culture, emotions are considered disruption or distractions and not true guides. This is solely misguided. And it's interesting to know that the legitimation of emotions and feelings is at the core of the Nurture Your Inner Child course, the reparenting course. And we are here to kind of bring forward the fact that emotions are the way our bodies protect our life, and thus express our displeasure through emotions. The way we can express displeasure with something happening with us is through our emotions and feelings. Going back to Alexander Lowen. Alexander Lowen based it upon his close work with William Reich, the father of body-oriented therapy. And Alexander Lowen kind of talked about the fact that various emotions are localized in different ways within the body. Okay, and this is kind of the map, right? The anger localized in the upper body and the head. The fear, notice where it spreads out, doesn't go into the hands, but it does localize the heart and parts of the brain, right? Disgust localizes more in the throat and connects to the tummy, to the digestive system. Happiness, notice what's happening with happiness. It can take all over us, right? Happiness is one of the strongest. It is the strongest emotion. And another strongest emotion you can see here would be depression. Okay, I do have a happiness course coming up. I have prepared a beautiful happiness course. I took the happiness course by Harvard and prepared a beautiful NeuroGraphic-based NeuroGraphic integrated course with the happiness. So that's something to look forward, as well as more information on the emotion. I'm preparing a thorough emotions course where each session we're going to work with one emotion and use NeuroGraphica to balance out that emotion. Sadness, notice, right? Also, the blue feeling. You can study this further, okay? Alexander Lower is one of the foremost expert on the feelings within the field of psychology. Welcome to read his books. He has great books. Have one waiting for me on my psych shelf. Surprise, notice it's in the head and in the chest, right? Neutral, there are no feelings. Neutral, notice no red or orange colors. Envy is mostly in the head. Shame, notice the eyes, the tummy involved, the part of the trachea here, the breathing, right? It affects the breathing. Pride, notice what's happening with pride. It's really affects the upper body, right? Contempt, right? It affects the genital area and the head mostly, as well as the trachea and throat area. Like I said, depression is the next strongest. Look how much energy is spread. Love, notice how much energy, red energy there is love, similar to happiness, right? Only it doesn't go to the feet. And anxiety also quite strong. It affects the digestive system, the breathing, the lungs, right? The throat. Very interesting. Okay, let's go further, okay? I want to explain, let's see what's going on here. Yeah, I'm gonna, give me a second. Okay, let's go further. Like I started mentioning, legalization of emotion and feeling is at the core of Nurture Your Inner Child course, the reparenting course. It's interesting to know that we use emotions as, it's important to learn to use emotions as resources. Every child has two biological instincts. Survival includes using given instincts, senses, reactions, expression that we can use to express any distress or impulse experienced by our body. And that does include feelings and emotion expressions. The second fundamental biological need of every human is the level, at the level of the childhood, is to create a long-lasting connection with at least, it used to be at least one significant adult. Nowadays, we strive for both adults, both parents, who will promote our survival in this world. And it also involves the integration of the feelings and emotions. In this specific case, today's session, we're dealing with a mother figure. It's interesting to know that newborn has a set of phenomena, smell, sensorial connection, and that's what the mother is connected, okay? There is a triggering within the mother, there is a triggering of certain emotion within her whenever she comes in contact with the mother, with the baby, right? By the way, you may notice with some women, it may even be other babies, right? That's why women have this connection whenever they take the babies, they're like, oh, can I touch the baby? Can I hold the baby, right? Because it brings within them, it triggers within them certain emotions, certain natural nurturing instincts. It's interesting to note another example I will give you is that when the baby, upon contact with the mother, started focusing on her eyes, seeking contact, and when the mother answers the question, establishes eye contact with the mother, the baby reacts with delight in bodily way, vibrates with the whole body, smiles, or like this form of a smile. This brings a tremendous reaction from the mother, right? There's a deeper connection, this connection on deep sensational level with this baby. This is a psychological, I'm going to call it as it is, the way I learned it, psychological and spiritual orgasm, okay? This connection with the baby, this height of emotional delight, okay? And this is one of the ways the baby connects to the mother and creates a long-lasting relationship based upon the trigger of such emotion within the mother. The affection, trust, interest, curiosity, tender inspiration, and trepidation. it's as a result of this connection, the mother and often other women or people with a high emotional cue or preference for life vector tend to seek more connection and interaction with the baby, seeking more emotional stimulation and sensation. Let's now start approaching this term or this idea or this topic called the negative emotions and feelings, okay? What people consider to be negative emotions. The purpose of the so-called, I'm going to put them in quotation mark, negative emotions and feeling is to bring the attention of the mother and the caregiver to the needs of the baby as necessary at the moment, to protect and transform change as necessary for the condition of the baby. Okay, specifically today, we're going to focus on three main pairs, okay? The pair is anger, okay? The pair, I'm going to call it pair. It's actually three negative emotions, again, so-called negative: anger, fear, and pain. Now, it's important to note that the holding of anger, let's put the opposite. The release of anger will bring forward love. The release of fear will bring forward trust. And the connection of the pain emotion is to the emotion of pleasure, okay? I'm going to give you details now. Interesting. Let's talk about fear and anger first. Both emotions activate the sympathetic system, which produces an extra dose of energy for a flight or fight response, right? We talked about the traumatic response. Something traumatic happens. The body's connection is first. 3 F's now, right? Used to be 2, now we have 3. Fight, flight, freeze. We're going to talk about fight and flight. In both cases, the muscle system prepares for actions, either activating yourself to run, lots of energy to escape the situation, or activating to fight, lots of energy to physically brawl the situation, right? In case of anger, the body prepares to attack the source of pain. In case of fear, the body prepares to flight from danger. There's a difference, okay? But it's interesting to know that anger and fear are brothers. They're connected with each other. When a person cannot express anger, that person will feel secure less, and the inability to express the anger will bring to the feeling of fear. If the anger cannot be expressed, the person will feel like flight from the fight or flight instinct, right? They cannot do either one. They cannot flight. They cannot fight. So as a result, since the fight didn't take place, the inability to express anger is only expressed through fighting. The confrontation is also called fighting. Hence, the site of fear will compensate. So what happens is the anger kind of hides within the body, within the muscles. Remember the body dynamics explanation, within the muscles, within the body composure. And fear surfaces. Because since fight didn't take his place, flight instead, because what happened is once you evade anger, you don't bring it up, you don't use it to fight, to confront somebody, then fear takes place because flight took place. How anger and fear are expressed in a person. Let's give an example, right? When a person is in a fear, ideally that person should run away. When that is not possible, the heightened energy that was aroused by the fear emotion now will be stuck within this area of the back, the neck, the shoulders are raised, the eyes are wide open, head is tilted back, buttocks clench. Those of you that watched the previous session on the growth perinatal matrices, what am I describing? I'm describing the birth, right? Remember the second stage? We talked about it. I actually said that we're going to talk about emotion later on. That's what happens. The second stage, when the fetus gets involved in the fear, the fetus starts noticing that something is happening. It's not in control. It doesn't know what's happening. The uterus is contracting. The fetus is being ejected, kicked out, right? I like to call it kicking out of the Garden of Eden, kicking out of the paradise, right? And the baby doesn't know how to react. The fear, the emotion of fear comes forward. And this is the way we can describe how fear looks in a human. And this is what will initiate the baby to crawl through the third stage, the crawling through the birth canal. Okay, it's interesting to note. the kind of position in a person that indicates fear hidden within. Okay, now aggression. Aggression is an inability to express anger in a timely and appropriate manner. It will result in aggression. Aggression is mostly stuck within the mouth and the teeth, okay? Because aggression, you're going to notice where I'm going with it. Mouth and the teeth, biting. When infants bite, it's a form of aggression relieving. Okay, when we were babies, now notice what's happening. The way for babies to express aggression, they can't express it. There's no any other way to confront it except biting. When we were babies, we were told what? That biting was not allowed, it's not appropriate. Since aggression as a form of anger expression was totally suppressed. Hence, it had we have a lot of stuck energy within our body and muscle development. Allowing oneself to express anger emotions during the course will bring out the emotions that we were unable to express during being smaller, because babies are smaller, they feel smaller, they know they're smaller. Remember, we talked about the mother being the authority figure. They feel suppressed. They're not given other ways to express creatively. This is very important to note. In order for children who cannot verbally express, and of course, they're not allowed to bite, they can be allowed to bite by giving biting toys, right? Oral suction toys. Orally expressive toys are very important for infants to have. When children grow up, they need to be giving creative outlets, toys, building, Play-Doh, art. Boys like to do this rough type of playing where they kind of fight with each other. A lot of times in daycare, the teachers, who are mostly female, do not allow them. That should be allowed. Children need, especially boys, who need to get in contact with their masculine side, as well as girls, I actually consider. They need to be allowed to play with those action figures, create some kind of sounds where they bring out their aggressiveness forward. Okay, that's very, very important to start understanding this. For adults, if you ask me, how do you bring out your aggressiveness? Workout, gym time, dancing, taekwondo, what do you call the other one where there is not bodybuilding, but something similar, where there's like martial arts connected with like maybe dancing, Zumba, something like that. There's so many ways, but gym, working out, involving your body to express itself, shaking of the body, okay, anything that involves shaking of the body, anything that involves moving the body, that is one of the best ways to express anger as adults so that it's not built up. If you're not interested in like actual confrontation at work or in the family, which is not what I'm trying to bring you to do, right? But that's interesting to note, okay? Very important to bring forward. Another aspect is that parents often model children. They often try to build up children with convenient emotional expression, convenient, of course, is reliable, convenient, quiet, smiling, happy, joy, positive emotions. Hence, we have a lot of tons and tons of energetic emotions not relieved and hidden within, which is very important, especially for fire element personalities. Those of you who remember, we talked about the various elements personalities. Those who are born as a fire personality, anger is a preferred emotion of reacting to the world around them, okay? Whatever world trigger is, their way of reacting is actually anger, is confrontation. If they don't do it, it's very hard for those people. It actually backfires. It may make them more depressed and may bring too much emotion suppressed within. So important to note, when we start releasing anger, we'll bring forward, we start seeing the emotion of love. The release of fear will bring forward trust, okay? Let's go forward. We have one more pair we need to bring forward, and then before we end, let's talk about pain and pleasure. The fear of pleasure is a fear of pain, both physical and emotional. When people suppress pleasure, it actually originates from the experiencing of pain. And that originated with the original pleasure experience, with the original pain experience, okay? Pain and pleasure kind of go together. If the child did not try to evade the experience of pain, that's where it connects to it be evading the experience of pleasure. Psychologically, this is associated with the pain of loss, frustration, belittling, insult. As we grow, as we mature, we'll learn to suppress our pain, our anger, and our fear in other ways. One of the major ones, of course, is eating disorders, food, watching TV, addictions, right? The various forms of addiction, alcohol, smoking, mentioning watching TV, device time, right? The phones, that's a way for us to escape the reality. Shopping is, for many people, it's shopping, right? Shopaholics. Sexual pleasure is another way, and it's interesting to see how it's connected, right? It takes us further and further away from the possibilities and abilities to express our suppressed fear, anger, pain deep within ourselves. It's rooted very much, hidden very much within ourselves. In order to bring it up, we need to learn to release it. The suppressed emotions hidden deep within our muscles gain layers of fat and extra body mass, okay? That's another reason why people gain weight, because of these three emotions are very much being suppressed. And this, of course, will lead totally to depression. Once we close ourselves to pain, we close ourselves to pleasure. Without sadness, there is no joy. Without rebirthing, there is no pleasure of resurrecting. We get rebirth when we get enough courage to meet the pains, various types of pain that life offers us, without using illusions to cover up. Pain is a duality. Okay, when we receive a signal of pain, it portrays a threat to our wholeness of our whole organism. It also, but it's interesting to note, it also provides an opportunity for the body to relieve and reconstruct the after effects of the original trauma. Often dissociation from emotions brings forth the emphasis of existing within our head. Remember the bodydynamics, okay? When it's too much emotional, we tend to dissociate because it brings forth pain. The message is the thoughts are not painful, and we can easily run away and hide within our thoughts. When emotions overwhelm a person in a certain moment, it might be too much. And the separation of the head from the middle body, and there are three separations, okay? The head from the middle body, it's mind and the heart, and the middle body separating from the bottom body, it's the separation of the heart, the emotions, the representation of emotions with the physical, with the body. Okay, and this is the way the body and psyche create a way to kind of protect us from going crazy, from getting too much depressed, or God forbid, dying or overwhelming in such a way where we won't have enough resources to deal with it. Okay, so anger and love are connected together, and they create an impulse to move forward, to move outwards. They're connected to the, by the way, anger and love belong here in the upper body. Okay. Fear and trust is the impulse to move inward. Okay. Creating, clearing, bringing in emotion, figuring out that emotion, balancing both of those emotions within. Not both, I'm sorry, just the fear, emotion, trust is a connecting, is a kind of sequence, right? Consequence. So that's working within ourselves. And there is, of course, pain and pleasure. It's diffusing the tension. So to bring forward love, anger should be expressed and freed from within. To bring forward trust, it's important to realize one's suppressed fear and assist the body to release it. Best way would be, I see a lot of them, by the way, somatic yoga, somatic exercises, even just going to the gym will actually do in the beginning. But I would highly suggest doing somatic exercises, okay? Bring forth pleasure and pain must be faced, not run away from. Face it and breathe, move, live through it, path through it, okay? Important to face your pain and say, okay, this is pain. This was unpleasurable. This was very uncomfortable, it pained my body, it pained my mind, it pained my heart. Lots and lots of breathing, breathing in and out, breathing in and out, breathing in and out. And that's when you will get to the realization, I can live through it. I can handle it. Okay? As adults, a lot of times we face unacceptance of crying, breathing, right? We freeze. And that's the way infants respond to trauma situations. They freeze, right? They go like this. We don't accept shame for expressing or feeling emotions and trauma, and that's our trauma, our fear of rejection. And of course, we don't like anxiety. Anxiety comes to us in the infant. It stayed with us from the infant, maybe even fetus time. It originated within our mothers, and it kind of carried over to the fetus, because that's how fetuses and newborn babies and little children, they connect. We talked about it, the umbilical cord connection, and they just acquire the emotions of the mother easily and store it within themselves, okay? Other hard emotions that are deemed unacceptable in our society: guilt, sadness, grief, resentment, disgust, depreciation, jealousy, envy, despair. I'm going to go through all of these emotions in the emotions course. I'm going to planning for fall 2024. Okay, welcome to join. Welcome to learn about each one of the emotions. Yeah, the next video I'm going to make is going to be much shorter. We're going to talk about the containment. And welcome to join me and watch. Containment is discussing how we can express those emotions without overwhelming us, how we can go through the emotions, learn to express the emotions without it kind of taking over, but rather express, let it go, and move on with our life. Thank you for joining me. If you want to register for the course, welcome to join the reparenting course. A second. Okay, nurturing an inner child course. We focus on nurturing your inner child. It's 11 sessions. I added an extra session. I added a complimentary extra session. You can register at NeuroGraphicaUSA.com or lanashalom.com. Thank you for joining me. I enjoyed sharing this very important information about emotions.